The shouting starts before anyone understands what's happening. A badge flashes. A gun glints. The congregation freezes. And the pastor stands alone on the steps of his own church. Breathing slow. Hands raised. Eyes steady. The cop storms forward. Red-faced. Loud. Shaking with a kind of anger no one can explain. People gasp. Mothers pull children back. Phones unlock and tilt upward. And the pastor keeps repeating the same words. I didn't do anything. But the cop doesn't care. He pushes him. Hard. Right in front of everyone who came to worship. Everyone who trusted this place to be safe. Everyone who is now watching a humiliation unfold beneath the shadow of a stained glass window. A woman in the back flinches. Quiet. Small. Invisible. But her eyes hold something different. Something sharp. Something dangerous. Because she knows the truth. And the truth is the only thing that can end this. The pastor has always been gentle. Soft voice. Warm hands. Heavy heart. He lost his wife 2 years ago. Lost his brother last winter. Lost 3 members of his church to things he still blames himself for. But he never lost hope. Until today. Because today, the cop walked into the churchyard like it belonged to him. Like this pastor was a criminal. Like this congregation was a threat. And the pastor couldn't understand why. Not yet. The cop starts shouting accusations. Trespassing. Suspicious activity. Matching a description. All delivered with a sneer sharp enough to cut bone. Nobody believes him. But nobody moves. Fear fills the air like smoke, slow, choking, impossible to ignore. The pastor lowers his hands. Only slightly. Only enough to breathe. And the cop snaps. He grabs him. Slams him against the church doors. In front of the cross. In front of children. In front of the people who trust him with their prayers. The pastor winces. The crowd erupts. But the cop tells them to stay back. Hand on his holster. Eyes daring anyone to try. Someone cries. Someone whispers that this isn't right. Someone whispers louder that this could get worse. And the pastor realizes something. This isn't about a crime. This isn't about suspicion. This isn't about justice. This is personal. And he knows that look in the cop's eyes. The same look he's seen in a lifetime of quiet moments. The same look that has followed him in parking lots, grocery stores, and sidewalks. The same look he prayed would disappear someday. Hatred. Old. Taut. Perfectly polished. He closes his eyes. He knows where this is going. But he also knows something the cop doesn't. Someone here saw everything. And that someone knows the truth. She stands alone. Small frame. Simple clothes. Hair pulled back like she doesn't want to be noticed. But she is noticing everything. Her eyes track every movement. Every lie. Every insult thrown at the pastor in front of his flock. She trembles. Not with fear. With anger. Because she watched the whole thing start. From the very beginning. Not here. Not in front of the church. But 3 blocks away. Where the cop first saw the pastor walking. Where he slowed his patrol car. Where he smirked. Where he followed him. She saw it. She saw it all. And she is the only person in this crowd who knows the pastor is innocent before this confrontation even began. Because she saw what the cop did. And what he planted. And what he planned to claim. Her chest tightens. Her breathing shakes. Her fingers curl into fists. Because silence is safe. But silence is also betrayal. And she made a promise years ago that she would never stay silent again. Not after what happened to her brother. Not after what happened to her father. Not after what happened to her. The crowd grows restless. The pastor's back hits the church doors again. Louder this time. Enough to echo. Enough to make the choir gasp. Enough to break something inside him. He looks at the faces in the crowd. Fear. Pain. Shame. Helplessness. But no one steps forward. Not yet. Because the cop is still shouting. Still threatening. Still laughing under his breath like this is entertainment. He leans close to the pastor's ear. Too close. Whispers something no one else can hear. But the pastor flinches. Just once. And that's enough. Enough to make the woman in the back move. Enough to crack open a trembling voice. Enough to shake the entire congregation. She pushes through the crowd. Slow at first. Then faster. Her heartbeat is a drum. Her fear is a ghost. Her truth is a weapon. She steps into the open. Into the sunlight. Into the storm. Her voice comes out small. But steady. I saw what really happened. The cop freezes. The pastor looks up. The crowd falls silent in a single breath. Her next line drops like a hammer. He followed him. All eyes snap to the cop. He stiffens. His jaw tightens. His grip on the pastor loosens just enough to betray panic. And the woman continues. He targeted him. Before he reached the church. Before anyone else saw. Before this. Her voice doesn't break. Not once. He wanted this. Planned it. Because he thought no one would say anything. The cop steps toward her. But someone grabs his arm. A church elder. Then another voice rises. Then another. The crowd moves like one body. One purpose. One truth. And the woman points to the pastor. He is innocent. Her finger trembles. Then she points to the cop. You're the problem. The silence that follows is heavy enough to crush stone. And finally, the pastor breathes. More phones lift. More voices join. Someone yells to call the chief. Someone else says internal affairs is already on the way, because they were recording from the start. The cop's face drains. His confidence cracks. Then his posture. Then his lies. He tries to speak. But the woman cuts him off. I saw you plant that wallet on the sidewalk. The crowd gasps. The pastor's head snaps up. The cop's mouth opens, no sound. I filmed you. And she raises her phone. Screen glowing. Proof shining. A single video. Clear. Unshakable. Damning. And the cop finally stumbles back. Like he's been hit. The chief arrives within minutes. Sees the video. Sees the crowd. Sees the pastor's bruised back and shaking hands. And the chief's expression hardens. The cop is cuffed. On the same church steps he tried to claim. He tries to shout. To justify. To twist the truth. But no one listens. Because the truth is already out. The congregation surrounds the pastor. Helping him stand. Helping him breathe. Helping him reclaim this place that was always his. And the quiet woman who saved him. She tries to step away. Disappear. Fade back into safety. But the pastor reaches out. Light touch. Grateful eyes. Silent thanks. She nods. Once. That's enough. Her promise is kept. Her truth delivered. Her fear defeated. The church doors open. Light pours out. And the pastor walks inside again. Not broken. Not ashamed. Not alone. Because sometimes justice doesn't arrive with thunder. Sometimes it arrives with one quiet voice. Strong enough to save a man's life. The sanctuary froze. Nobody breathed. The cop's voice still echoed against the stained glass windows, shaking in the air like a cracked bell. But the pastor didn't move. He stood there, shoulders heavy, hands at his sides. Not fighting. Not shouting back. Just absorbing the blow. The shame. The humiliation. The sting of being accused in the one place he had always felt safe. The congregation stared at him like he'd suddenly become a stranger. Some confused. Some afraid. Some already judging. And the cop loved every second. He stepped closer. Boots loud. Authority over confidence dripping from every stride. His hand hovered near his holster. Just enough for fear to bloom. "Don't move," he barked again. Louder this time. Harsher. Forcing the whole room to absorb his rage. The pastor stayed still. Then, a sound. Soft. Barely audible. A small gasp. From the back of the sanctuary. The woman who hadn't spoken all morning. The one everyone forgot was there. She stood now. Slowly. Hands trembling. Face pale. Her eyes fixed on the cop. Then the pastor. Then the cop again. The entire church followed her gaze. The cop turned, irritated. "Sit down," he snapped. But she didn't. She walked forward. One step at a time. Quiet. Steady. Determined. Every step tightened the air. Every step pulled the truth closer. Every step pulled the cop's mask closer to cracking. She reached the center aisle. Stopped. Raised her chin. And spoke. Her voice didn't shake. "You're lying." The church erupted with whispers. The cop stiffened. "What did you say?" "You're lying," she repeated. "You know the pastor didn't do what you're accusing him of." A heavy silence. A battle line drawn. The cop stepped closer. Towering over her. But she didn't flinch. Her voice remained steady. "You were outside the building yesterday. I saw you. You weren't here because of any complaint. A beat. You were here because of him." She nodded toward the pastor. Not accusing. Protecting. The cop's jaw tightened. A flicker of panic. Quick. Sharp. Almost invisible. Almost. The pastor blinked. Confused. Hurt. He didn't understand. Not yet. But the woman did. She looked at the congregation. Looked at the people who trusted the pastor. Looked at the people who were moments away from abandoning him. "I saw the cop talking to someone behind the church last night," she said. "He wasn't investigating anything." A breath. He was being paid. Gasps. Hands over mouths. Eyes wide. The cop's mask fractured. "Careful," he warned. She didn't stop. "He took money from a man who hates the pastor. Who wants him gone. Who wants this church to fall apart." The whispers turned into ripples. Shock spreading. Fear mutating. Truth rising. The pastor's knees nearly buckled. The cop lunged. But the woman stepped back, just enough. "You assaulted him today," she said, voice razor sharp. "In front of all of us." Another breath. "But you forgot something." Her hand reached into her pocket. Slow. Deliberate. She pulled out her phone. Tapped the screen. A sound filled the sanctuary. Static. Then voices. The cop's voice. Threatening. Cold. The other man's voice. The one paying him. Talking about ruining the pastor. Talking about planting blame. Talking about breaking him publicly. The church froze. The pastor's eyes filled. The cop went pale. His hand dropped from his holster. Every head turned toward him like a spotlight. No escape. No power left. Just truth. Just justice. Just the weight of everything he'd done crashing down on him. The woman's eyes didn't break from his. This ends today. And for the first time, the cop looked small. Very small. The pastor exhaled a shaky breath. The truth had finally found him. The congregation began to stand. Not in fear. Not in confusion. But in unity. In protection. In anger for the injustice they just witnessed. The woman, quiet, unnoticed for years, became the one voice that saved everything. And the cop. He realized his badge couldn't shield him from truth. The sanctuary felt different now. Not frightened. Not confused. Awake. The truth had cracked open the room like a beam of lightning cutting through a storm. The pastor tried to steady himself. But the weight of everything, the shame, the betrayal, the fear, pressed against his chest. Still, he stood. He faced the congregation. Faceless silhouettes. People he had prayed for. People he had comforted. People who almost watched him get destroyed. And in the aisle, the cop remained frozen. No arrogance. No thunder. Just the exposed face of a man who realized the curtain had been ripped away. The woman, the quiet one, didn't move. Her phone still played the recording. Clear. Damning. Unavoidable. The congregation listened. Every word. Every threat. Every piece of corruption dripping from the cop's voice. A few people covered their mouths. Others whispered prayers. Some stepped closer to the pastor in silent support. Something shifted. A tide. A turning. A reclaiming of dignity. The cop's eyes darted. Looking for escape. Looking for control. But the room wasn't his anymore. He reached for his radio. The woman stepped forward again. Calm. Steady. Unshaken. You don't get to call backup, she told him. Her voice wasn't loud. But it carried. It echoed across pews and stained glass and wounded hearts. You abused your badge today. A breath. And you thought no one would speak. Another step. I am speaking. The cop swallowed hard. The pastor watched her. A woman who had barely spoken in months. Always in the back. Always unnoticed. Always fading into corners and shadows and silence. But not today. Something in him softened. A crack of gratitude. A rush of tears he tried to hide. The woman lifted her phone again. I have the full recording saved. Uploaded. Backed up. The cop's face drained of color. You can't delete this, she added. You can't bury this. Her hands trembled now. A tiny shake. But her resolve didn't. The congregation began to murmur. Voices rising. Not in fear. Not in chaos. In anger. Righteous, quiet anger. A few men in the front row stepped forward. Not aggressively. Just enough to form a line between the cop and the pastor. A barrier. A message. The cop finally spoke. You don't know what you're doing. The woman looked him dead in the eyes. I know exactly what I'm doing. Her gaze didn't waver. You're not hurting him today. A breath. Not anymore. The pastor exhaled. A silent, shaking breath. One he'd been holding for too long. Then, another sound. A door opening at the back of the sanctuary. All heads turned. Another officer entered. Younger. Confused. Eyes scanning the room before settling on the tense standoff. He took in the scene. The cop. The woman. The pastor. The recording still playing. His face hardened. Not in hostility. In realization. He stepped inside slowly, hands visible. Turn off your radio, he told the corrupt cop. Right now. The corrupt cop froze. The younger officer approached him, calm but firm. "I got the anonymous email last night," he said. "About a setup. A beat. I didn't think it was real." He looked at the pastor. Then the woman. Then the recording. "It's real," he whispered. The corrupt cop stepped back. Stumbled. Lost his footing. The congregation watched. Justice, like a warm breeze, began drifting through the room. Not loud. Not dramatic. Quiet. Healing. The younger officer reached for the corrupt cop's wrist. "You're done." The corrupt cop tried to pull away. But the grip tightened. Handcuffs clicked. Cold metal. Finality. The sanctuary exhaled in unison. Slow. Stunned. Relieved. The pastor's eyes filled again. But this time, not from humiliation. From something softer. The woman stepped back. Shoulders slumping. Breath shaking. The adrenaline finally breaking. The pastor approached her. Slow. Careful. He didn't touch her. Didn't reach for her. He just stood beside her. Close enough that she could feel his gratitude. He whispered. Barely audible. "Thank you." The woman stared ahead. Eyes glassy. Heart pounding. Unsure how to accept gratitude she never expected. But she nodded. Once. Small. Precise. Because she knew the truth. She didn't speak to be brave. She didn't speak to be a hero. She spoke because silence would have broken her. And because someone had broken her once, years ago, when no one spoke for her. Today was different. Today, she spoke for someone else. And justice listened. The crowd froze. The pastor's breathing tightened. The cop smirked like justice belonged only to him. The room felt smaller. Thicker. Colder. The woman stepped forward anyway. Small steps. Shaking hands. But steady eyes. She didn't look at the pastor. Or at the cop. She looked at the floor. Like the truth itself was lying there. Waiting. Hiding. Begging someone to pick it up. The cop narrowed his eyes. Told her to sit back down. Tried to silence her. Tried to scare her. But she didn't move. Not this time. Not after what she'd seen. Not after what she'd carried. Her voice cracked once. Then it strengthened. Everyone leaned in. Every heartbeat synced. Every breath paused. Because they could feel it. Something was about to break. Something was about to shift. Something heavy. Dark. Long buried. She reached into her coat. The cop reached for his holster. Gasps echoed through the sanctuary. The pastor closed his eyes. Whispered a prayer only he could hear. The woman held up her hand. A small object shimmered under the church lights. A flash drive. Just a flash drive. But the cop flinched like it was a weapon. Because to him, it was. She lifted it higher. Her wrist trembled. Her voice didn't. "This is everything." A murmur rippled across the benches. The cop shook his head. Stepped forward. Said she was lying. Said she was confused. Said she didn't understand what she was holding. He was losing control now. His voice cracking. His confidence slipping. In the congregation, they were watching. All of them. Every pair of eyes. No one blinked. The woman plugged the drive into the church projector. The screen lit up. Static. Then clarity. Footage rolled. Raw. Unedited. Unforgiving. The sanctuary erupted in whispers. The cop's face drained. He stepped back. Then further back. Like the screen was pushing him. Like the truth itself was dragging him into the open. The footage told everything. The real reason he came. The real crime committed. The pastor's innocence. The cop's scheme. The woman's fear. Her guilt for staying silent too long. And finally, her choice to stop running. To stop pretending. To stop being scared. The sanctuary shifted. The pastor lifted his head. His eyes glistened. Not with anger, but with grief. Relief. Exhaustion. Justice forming in slow motion. The cop panicked. Yelled that it was fake. Doctored. Manipulated. The pastor walked past her aisle. Didn't touch her. Didn't need to. His presence alone felt like a hand extended through the quiet. She exhaled. A shaky, uneven breath that tasted like the first moment she had ever felt safe. The congregation remained seated. But their eyes followed him. Some with shame. Some with awe. Some with the ache of people who had discovered they weren't as brave as they had once believed themselves to be. The choir director stood slowly. A thin, trembling figure. Like memory wrapped in fabric. He cleared his throat. But his voice didn't rise. Just cracked softly. We should pray. The pastor lifted a hand. Stopping him. Not harsh. Just gentle. Firm. No, he whispered. The word drifted through the room. Unexpected. Raw. Everyone froze. He stepped into the center aisle. Facing the congregation. Facing the weight. Facing the truth that had almost been buried under uniforms and lies. No prayer, he said again. Not yet. A murmur rippled. Uneasy. Confused. He looked around. His voice a low ember. We don't pray over wounds we're not willing to clean. Silence collapsed like a wave. People sank deeper into their seats. The truth of that sentence stung. Deep. Real. He took a breath. Today, he said, we acknowledge what tried to happen here. The woman's hands shook again. Someone clasped hers. She didn't look to see who. She just held on. The pastor's jaw tightened. We acknowledge the danger that walked through our doors. A collective shiver. We acknowledge the lie that almost became our story. The projector screen behind him still showed the paused video. The footage that had shattered the illusion of authority and exposed the fragile brutality beneath it. And most of all, he continued, we acknowledge the person who carried the truth alone. Dozens of heads turned toward her. Not accusing. Not judging. Seeing. Really seeing. She lowered her gaze. Tears slipping past her fingers. The pastor stepped closer to the front pew. Silence, he said, is how injustice survives. The room flinched. He let the line sit. Then sink. Then bruise. But courage, he whispered, is how it ends. The woman shook. The words hit her everywhere that had been numb. Everywhere she had survived. Everywhere she had hidden. The pastor looked at her again. Directly. Steady. Gentle. You helped end something today. The breath she released felt like letting go of years. Maybe decades. The pastor's shoulders softened. He scanned the room. Now, he said, we heal. No dramatic swell of music. No applause. No shouts of praise. Just breath. Shared. Human. Hurting. Mending. He walked back toward the pulpit. But before he reached it, a hand lifted from the back row. A slow, hesitant rise. A man stood. Middle-aged. Shaking. His voice wavered. Pastor, he's still outside. A cold current cut through the room. Every back straightened. Every heartbeat quickened. The woman stiffened, breath catching like a snapped thread. The pastor stopped mid-step. Turned slightly. eyes narrowing with a calm that carried a storm behind it. "Who?" he asked. But he already knew. The air already knew. The man swallowed. "The officer," he whispered. "He's waiting." The woman lifted her head. Her breath shaky. Her cheeks wet. But something inside her steadied. For the first time all day. For the first time in years. The sanctuary felt different now. Like the air had shifted. Like truth had opened a window no one realized was locked. The pastor stood by the door. Tall. Still. Silent. A lone silhouette against the soft glow spilling through the stained glass windows. The congregation watched him. Waiting. Wondering. Healing required direction. And they looked to him for it. He turned around slowly. His face carrying both exhaustion and strength. Like someone who had walked through fire. And came out carrying buckets of water for everyone else. "Today," he said, voice low, "we witnessed what fear can do." The room stilled. No shuffling. No whispers. Just hearts listening. Fear made a man abuse his authority. Whispers softened into nothing. "Fear made some of you doubt me." Several heads lowered. Fear made her stay silent. The woman clenched her hands. Her breath caught. But she didn't look away. Because truth, even when it hurts, is clean. "And fear," he said, "almost broke this church apart." Another silence. A deep one. A searching one. The pastor walked down the aisle. Slow steps. Measured steps. Steps that felt like rebuilding with every movement. When he reached the woman, he paused. Not towering over her. Not diminishing her. Just standing beside her. The way truth stands beside courage. He placed a gentle hand on the pew beside her. Not touching her. Giving her space. But letting her know. "I see your pain." She swallowed hard. A silent sob cracked through. But she stayed upright. Stayed present. Stayed brave. The pastor faced the congregation again. "This," he continued softly, "is not a day of shame." Eyes lifted. "This is a day of clarity." A few people nodded. Slow. Careful. Like the word itself was fragile. "This is a day we remember who we are." His voice deepened. "This church does not bow to fear." A murmur of emotion rippled through the room. "This church does not let hatred decide truth." The woman's shoulders loosened. Just slightly. "This church," he said, "protects the vulnerable. Even when it is hard. Even when it is messy. Even when it costs us." He exhaled. A long, painful, cleansing breath. Then, "We will not let today break us." The congregation breathed in, collectively, as though his words were stitching something back together. A middle-aged man in the second row wiped his eyes. An elderly woman clasped her hands over her heart. A teenager blinked hard, chest trembling with emotion he didn't expect to feel. The pastor continued. "Some of you have faced injustice outside these walls." A few nods. Heavy nods. "Some of you have seen power used to silence." More nods. A quiet chorus of pain affirmed. "And today, we all saw it happen inside these walls." The woman shuddered. A sharp inhale she tried to hide. The pastor's eyes flicked toward her. Not accusing. Not pitying. Acknowledging. "We face it," he said. "Together." The church fell silent again. But this silence felt different. Less like fear. More like unity gathering its strength. The woman's voice cracked through it. Small. Fragile. Barely a whisper. But it landed like a confession the whole room needed. "I should have spoken sooner." The pastor closed his eyes. Pain flickered across his features. But when he opened them again, there was only grace. "We speak," he said softly, "when we are ready." She breathed out. A trembling, broken exhale that sounded like release. Like survival. Like forgiveness beginning. And in that moment, something shifted inside her. A knot she had carried for too long. A guilt she thought she'd never shake. A fear that had shaped too much of her life. It loosened. Not all at once. But enough to breathe again. Enough to hope again. The pastor turned back to the congregation. "We will rebuild trust," he said. "Not with empty promises. But with truth, compassion, and accountability." A collective murmur of agreement, soft but sincere, passed through the church. He gestured toward the woman. She showed bravery today. Her eyes stung. Her chest tightened. But she didn't look away. "And we," he added, "will protect her. Just as we protect each other." The congregation nodded. This time, stronger. More certain. A quiet ripple of unity. He stepped back toward the pulpit. But stopped halfway. Turned around. His final words, for now, were simple. But they echoed through the sanctuary like a vow stitched into the walls. "We are a church. Not because we gather, but because we stand together." The woman bowed her head. Her tears softened. Not from shame. From healing. Slow. Steady. Real. The sanctuary lights hummed softly. Dust danced in the sunbeams. And for the first time that day, peace touched the edges of the room. Barely there. But present. Growing. Like dawn after a long, bruised night. The cop stares at her. Blinking. Breathing hard. The room holds its breath with him. He opens his mouth. Nothing comes out. Just a dry click in his throat. The pastor watches him. Still calm. Still steady. Still broken, but standing. The woman keeps the phone raised. The screen keeps glowing. The truth keeps spreading. Whispers roll through the sanctuary. Low. Sharp. Cutting. He lied. He framed him. He planned it. He came in here to destroy him. The cop finally steps back. Just one step. But it feels like a fall. His face twitches. His jaw tightens. His eyes dart toward the door. Escape. That's all he wants now. But the congregation parts to block him. Not touching him. Not saying a word. Just standing. A wall of witnesses. A wall of truth. His breath cracks. He looks at the woman. Hatred flashes. Then fear. Then something weaker. Defeat. The pastor steps forward. Slow. Heavy. Measured. He stops just a few feet away. Close enough to see the cops shaking hands. The pastor doesn't yell. Doesn't smile. Doesn't curse him. He simply speaks. A single line. Soft. Even. Unshaken. "You didn't break me." The cop swallows hard. He can't answer. He can't breathe right. He can't look away. The woman lowers her phone. But she doesn't move. She's still guarding the truth. Protecting it. Holding it firm. Two church elders move behind the cop. Not aggressive. Just present. The kind of presence that says, "Your game is over." The cop tries to speak again. But the words refuse him. He chokes on the silence he created. Then, heavy footsteps from the back. Another officer steps in. Older. Smoother. Badge shining under the lights. He walks straight to the disgraced cop. Not smiling. Not angry. Just, "Done. Hands behind your back." The congregation gasps. But the pastor doesn't move. The cop's knees wobble. His breath shakes. His eyes redden. No, come on. Hands. Behind. Your back. The young officer obeys. Slow. Defeated. Finished. The click of handcuffs echoes like a crack of thunder. A sound the pastor will remember forever. A sound the congregation will never forget. A sound the woman will replay in her head when she doubts whether courage matters. The older officer guides the disgraced one toward the exit. The church watches. No jeers. No clapping. No celebration. Just silence. A holy, heavy silence. When the doors close behind them, the pastor exhales. Slow. Shaky. Deep. The weight leaves his shoulders one grain at a time. The woman steps toward him. Small steps. Like she's not sure she's allowed. Like she's still shaking herself. But she stands in front of him. And for the first time since the chaos began, she looks up. Their eyes meet. Hers trembling. His exhausted. And she whispers, barely audible. I couldn't let him break you. The pastor's lips part. But no words come out. Just a trembling breath. He places a hand over his heart. Not to thank her. To steady himself. Because the truth saved him. And she saved the truth. The congregation slowly surrounds them. Not crowding. Not suffocating. Just forming a circle of protection. A circle of healing. A circle of home. The choir director begins humming a hymn. Soft. Slow. Fragile as glass. Others join. One by one. The melody fills the room. Warm. Broken. Beautiful. The pastor closes his eyes. And for the first time that day, he feels safe. The church doors slammed again. Harder this time. Everyone jolted. The cop marched back in. Jaw tight. Pride louder than sense. Boots echoing across the sanctuary like a threat. He scanned the crowd. Eyes sharp. Hungry. Embarrassed. He had been proven wrong minutes ago. But some men can't stand the taste of truth. Some men choke on it. He stopped inches from the pastor. Too close. Too tense. The pastor didn't move. He stood calm. Quiet. Soft strength radiating from him like a shield. The silence felt electric. The congregation stared. Some fearful. Some outraged. All waiting. The woman who had spoken up earlier stepped half forward. Not to confront. Not to fight. Just to be there. A presence. A witness. A reminder that truth didn't tremble. The cop looked at her. Eyes burning. He wasn't used to being challenged. Especially not by someone who wasn't supposed to matter in his world. But she didn't flinch. Not this time. Not anymore. She clutched the small recording device in her hand, the same one that had captured everything he denied. Every word. Every insult. Every lie. The cop's jaw shifted. His voice came out low. Trembling with anger. You think one recording changes anything? The pastor breathed in. Slow. Solid. It already did. A murmur spread through the room. Like wind through dry leaves. Like a rising tide. The cop stared at him. But the pastor didn't break away. Didn't cower. Didn't shake. He held steady. The woman felt her heart racing. Not from fear. From something stronger. Something she didn't recognize at first. Courage. Real. Raw. Uncompromising. The cop's radio crackled at his shoulder. Static. A voice. A name. Then a sentence that froze him. Internal Affairs wants you back. Immediately. The room shifted. The congregation inhaled as one. The pastor's eyes softened. Not in triumph. In relief. Justice, finally stepping into the doorway. The cop swallowed. Hard. He stepped back. For the first time since entering the church, he looked small. Not powerful. Not loud. Just a man cornered by his own choices. He turned to leave. No more shouting. No more threats. Just the heavy weight of consequences dragging behind him. As he reached the doors, the woman spoke. Quiet. Steady. Unshakable. Truth wins. Even when you try to bury it. He paused. Shoulders tense. But he didn't turn around. He walked out. Silence swallowed the church. A long, trembling silence. Full of emotion. Full of release. The pastor finally exhaled. Slow. Deep. Like a man stepping out of a storm. The woman stood beside him. No spotlight. No praise. Just presence. Just truth. The congregation rose. Not in chaos. Not in panic. But in unity. A soft ripple of support. A wave of understanding. A moment that felt bigger than any sermon. The pastor looked around. Quiet eyes. Gentle strength. His voice, when it finally came, barely above a whisper. We yield now. The woman felt the words settle into her chest. Warm. Steady. And for the first time in a long time, she felt like everything broken might finally begin to mend.